I wanted to talk this week about a very interesting realization that I've had. And I've had this for some time, and I think it's worth discussing. So I'm in college, as some of you know, probably most of you, and I'm studying a lot of things. I'm studying biology, I'm studying economics, and I've taken classes outside of those focuses. So like I've taken classes on genetics, and I've also taken classes on acting. And specifically in the acting classes I've taken, there's a very, very interesting thing that I've learned. And it's a piece of knowledge that I think is very, very undervalued, and I'd like to share it with everyone today. And that is that acting does not really care about the final product. If you're an actor, you don't give a flying fuck about what the movie's gonna look like at the end of the day. In theater, you really have to care because your performance is live, which means if you fuck up or something's not perfect, it's immediately visible. But the beauty of film, and to that extension, maybe even YouTube in some cases, is that while the content is immortalized, you can redo it as much as you want. You can make changes and tweaks. And when it comes to recording in front of a camera or even recording your voice and not showing your face, we don't care about the product. We care about the process. The beauty of acting is seeing an actor actually develop and experiment, try new things, and some things will stick and some things won't. And the things that don't work don't make the cut and they don't show up in the final product when you edit. But the things that do will be visible. And I think that that's truly what I like about film. I think that that's the magic of the film process. You experiment and you try all of these things, and there's absolutely no judgment at all. You just kind of push stuff together, and some of it will work and some of it won't. But at the end of the day, you will still be confident with a good product because you can always pick out the good stuff. And this is something that I've grown to really appreciate. I think there's a lot of love that goes into the process of making something creative. And when I was first starting off content creation, and also when I was starting off acting, because I did some film stuff before ever taking a class, I didn't really accept that information. I didn't really care. I kind of just grinded out. I pretended to play this character, and then that was kind of it, right? And it felt really disingenuous. It felt corny. In YouTube, this was just me reading a line. Probably once I didn't even script stuff. I would just kind of one-off it. And then that was the entire process. I would explicitly go out of my way to make my life easier by cutting corners or just having other people do things for me. And ultimately what I was left with was a piece of creative work that I was simply dissatisfied with. It was a creative piece of work, yes, but it wasn't good. It wasn't something where I could sit down and say, oh wow, I'm really proud that I made this. It was just something where I would be like, oh yeah, I made that, yeah. Oh well, on to the next, right? And I think that that is not a healthy mentality. So now why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about the love of the process? Well, it's kind of fucking obvious. Because there's this big thing that exists that kind of takes away from that process. You may have heard of it. It's called AI. Artificial intelligence fucking blows. I genuinely hate it so much, and I wish nothing but the worst to people who explicitly use it to undermine creative values and think that it is the future. Because the worst part is that to a degree they might actually be right. There's a lot of hype around artificial intelligence, and it's kind of worrying. As a creative person, as a creator, I have genuinely held multiple times like concerns because Google loves AI. And so what's to tell me that YouTube is just not going to completely capsize as a platform within, the next few years. And there's no knowing, and that's completely fine. Well, it's not completely fine. I'm fucking lying to you. It's fucked up. It's terrible, and these companies that are doing it are just despicable, and I don't know why we tolerate these things. But I'm sure that you've heard that story millions of times. And so I'm not going to tell you the same shit you've heard before. What I'm going to tell you is this. Even if you don't use AI, there's still so much about the creative process that people do still end up undervaluing, and they do still end up cutting corners and not appreciating. AI is not the only thing out here that is going to ruin your creative experience. I recently watched Iron Lung, the Markiplier movie. And my first impression of it, when I walked out of the theater, was me having absolutely no spine and just agreeing with what my friends thought about it. But then the more I kind of had time to have it ruminate in my head, the more I realized oh no, this is actually pretty enjoyable. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I would say it's definitely worth a watch if you are into the game. It's probably one of the most faithful representations of a video game in a movie form ever, and that's quite the accomplishment. But on the other hand, it is very unfortunate that Markiplier chose to make a very, very, very good, faithful movie on a very, 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 very bland, boring game. In my opinion, Iron Lung is not some horror masterpiece. I have played the game. I like David Szymanski. I like all the stuff he makes. I made a video on Dusk, and that was a good game, good video too. I like his stuff. But I think just Iron Lung, while it may function as a game, I don't think it functions as an IP that should have had a movie. And you know what? Maybe it was just because it would take next to no production to make, because you would literally just have the actor in a box for the entire movie, which is exactly what they did. But I don't know. I just feel like it was a little disappointing. So that's my perspective, right? That's my perspective as a consumer, as someone who doesn't really consider himself to be some grandiose film critic, but still someone who does consume a good amount of movies. I'm sitting here thinking, it was okay. I want to like it, but at the same time, I think it was a little boring. Now let's put ourselves in Markiplier's shoes for a moment. This is a fucking passion project. He probably put so much time and effort into making this happen. He doesn't fucking care what you think. That's the truth of it. Because at the end of the day, to these people, the people who will sacrifice an arm and a limb, or arm and a leg, because an arm is a limb, fuck me, just to make something, just to create something, just to get it out of their head and out there, they will unironically welcome that harsh, mean criticism with open arms. Because to those people, to us, we would rather have an army of people hate what we make than it go completely unnoticed. And that's the truth of it. A passion project is made for yourself and for yourself alone. You can say that this channel's a passion project in a sense. It's a journal, a digital journal, but it's still a journal. I don't give a flying fuck if you don't like these videos. If you watch them, that's great. I see the little view count go up and I'm like, oh man, I hope that this person enjoyed this video. And if they didn't, unlucky, whatever, we move on. The point is that if you are a content creator, or even if you're not, try not to get too caught up on what other people think. This is something that very easily can just completely destroy you. I have a lot of problems with my self-worth, like self-image. I don't like to take pictures of myself, for example, because I just don't like the way I look. But with time, I adopted that mentality. Actually, I don't really fucking care what other people think. I don't care if they think I'm like a fat chud or whatever. To me, it's just as long as I'm happy, as long as I'm healthy, that's what really matters. And you can extend that to almost anything in life. Stop fucking caring about what other people think. There's a term for this. I don't remember what it is because I'm not like a psychology major or anything. But there's this concept where basically you are so self-obsessed that you pick up on so many flaws and imperfections of yourself that most people won't notice. Like you're walking down the street, right, and you're like, oh fuck, my hair's not looking good, or I should have chosen a different shirt. This one pops too much. Meanwhile, everyone else who is around you is probably going through their very own little identity crisis of some similar caliber. They're also freaking out because maybe they forgot to brush their teeth, or they didn't get their nails done, or the jewelry doesn't match their shirt, or whatever. Every single person is fighting their own internal battle, and because of that, they really don't have enough time to be mean to you, to criticize you to that level. And yeah, maybe sometimes that there are exceptions to that rule. Absolutely. I'm not saying you should live your life not giving a fuck about anything. Quite the opposite. But on the other hand, oh my god, I made this so fucking huge. Oh my god. Whatever. I'm just gonna. My keyboard's broken. The two. My 2 key just refuses to work sometimes, and it's like really hard to play games because of it. I need to get that fixed. But yeah, people like, I don't know. I don't think I don't think bullies really like care that much about that stuff. Like bullying's not that it's not real. It is. It's just like when people say bullying, it's not that it's not even modern representation. That dated representation. Or it's like, hey kid, give me your lunch money or whatever. I'm gonna beat you into a pulp. No, bullying is a lot more deeper. It's psychological damage at this point. It's it can still be people making fun of you, calling you names, but more likely it's going to be psychological manipulation. Your classic pirate software stuff. And that's not very nice. So I guess what I want to say is don't let anything get to your head. As a content creator, we're very often caught up in the performance of our videos. We make content and then we get disappointed because it doesn't satisfy the expectations that we have. And as we develop and get better and hopefully grow, we start to move the goalpost in our content, and that leads to higher and higher expectations that all need to be met. And if they don't get met, we then kind of get into a slump. And that's like the worst thing that can happen to you as a person and as a creator, because suddenly you're heavily demotivated, maybe you're even depressed, just because this thing that you poured so much work into didn't get seen by like 1,000 people. It doesn't really matter. It can be the best thing in the world and it will not get 1,000 views. But at the end of the day, you still have to be proud of what you've accomplished, because otherwise you will never be able to move forward. You're going to get caught up on your failures, and because of that, you will never be able to correct them with a success. You can't let them win, man. That's not the right approach to it. You need to look at it, be proud of it. You need to cherish it. Cherish the time that you have working on things. Document stuff. Love the process. I recently started making like little notes and screenshots of my stuff as I like edit, as I progress and go through the creative process. I always save my thoughts. And I think that that's so cool because I can look back, and when I make a video or even like later, and if I get stuck, I can be like, oh, how did I do that? What was I thinking when I was doing this? I can see like, oh wow, this is so cool. Like I was so creative. And you'll realize that absolutely nothing has changed. If you were still creative, nothing's stopping you from still being creative. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want this one to drag on for too long. It's already been a healthy amount. So I just want to say that if you are somebody who is struggling creatively out there, maybe you're part of an accountability group, and maybe you're struggling to do your part. Maybe you haven't made a video in a really long time and, want to change that. You need momentum. That's the answer. You aren't going to get anything done until you put something in motion. An object at rest will stay at rest. A task that is not started cannot be finished. You need to sit down and just start doing stuff. Even if that stuff is completely stupid and pointless, maybe it isn't directly contributing towards your goal, you might realize that it might actually change your goal. For example, I would start editing a video and I would get bored and I would just make something really stupid in Photoshop. But in the process of doing that, I also came up with a joke that then made it into the video. So this is the creative process. It doesn't really boil down to just sitting in front of a desk and writing something down on your computer. The creative process follows you everywhere in life. It can happen when you're getting lunch. It can happen when you're about to go to bed. It happens a lot when I'm in the shower for some reason. You're just going to get a surge, an idea. And that idea is going to be gone really, really, really soon. You need to act on it. Because otherwise it's going to be gone and you're never, ever going to get it back. That's film. Film is about having actors sit in front of a camera, sometimes hours on end, and absolutely fuck around. Sometimes we over-exaggerate our emotions. It's called overacting. And what you'll usually notice is that it heightens your energy. And it brings out parts of your character and yourself that you wouldn't have before. I've seen some crazy transformations in people. Some people who were very introverted and reserved, and suddenly they're playing energetic characters. And the camera loves that because it captures the magic in your eyes when you try something new. When an actor realizes how to play a character, it immediately becomes boring. Nobody wants to see it. You're going to have 16 takes of you saying it the exact same way, doing the exact same motions, sitting the same way at the desk, making the same facial expressions, pretending to be surprised. If you're acting with somebody, actually surprise them. Do something off script, something unexpected, and that's how you throw them off. If you're working on content, or if you're working on literally anything, you should do that same thing. Do the unexpected. Live for the process.